you don't need to have like, your domain, your career set in stone. Everything could be explored, and then slowly you can just venture off and find that specific area you're really happy with and satisfied with. And even now, like I'm still, exploring different fields, different products, and still trying to understand where I want to go deeper. But yeah, nothing has to be set in stone.
I see. And you mentioned a lot of technical terms as well, so such as like security, and you were on the mobile thing, and now you're on shopping. So can you explain like how these technical concepts kind of connected together, and how you were able to like leverage your experience in engineering to like understand these products or like these technical aspects as a PM?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because I feel like with every project or every product, your technical strengths and weaknesses come out, right? So like in my current team, I know my data, like I'm very data driven, because shopping data is everywhere. You know how many folks are spending in their cart, what type of coupons and cashbacks folks are looking at and leveraging for their experience. And that's the data I'm looking at and getting deeper into now. In my previous experience, like with the mobile product management, I think I had to focus more on databases and looking at the infrastructure. And that's something I had to pick up in that co-op, right? I used to work with my manager very closely and work on these technical implementation details and understand what does our backend look like. So again, I think for every single experience and every single project or product, because sometimes in a company you can have multiple projects, which is happening now in my full-time career. I'm working on 3 different projects in parallel. You pick up different technical, parts of the project, and you have to either flex those technical, details and show it to your team that yes, you can work on this, or you even find out your weaknesses and what you're not interested in doing. And yeah, I think that's a big part of PM. With every single product and project, your technical strengths and weaknesses do come out, and you start figuring out, okay, this is what I want to keep, these are the types of projects or products I want to keep working on, and this is something I want to stay away from. Yeah.
The lights.
Yeah.
So you talked about the technical aspects, and that's great. So do you have any plans to like pursue, I guess, like further studies? Because as we understand, product management is a field that requires like multiple areas of knowledge.
Yeah.
And like other than the technical aspects, you mentioned there's the sales, the marketing, and the outbound focused aspects.
Yeah.
So like, would you say you have any plans to like pursue further studies, or how are you accumulating knowledge in the like sides that are not engineering?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I feel like I'm learning a lot about affiliate marketing right now, and that's through my job. But these are things that you start picking up in the workplace, and you're like, hey, I would love to like understand the theory, or actually understand what courses are out there to flex these skills, understand these skills, and I guess they ultimately help you do better at your job, right? So yes, I have been having chats with my manager on how to, I guess, upgrade my knowledge and get more involved in these type of areas where I'm not, to be fully transparent, I'm not there yet. Like I need to still understand the foundation of what affiliate marketing is. How are we getting these coupons? How does cashback and coupons works, right? So you don't have to know every single part of the product, but if you're interested in a particular field, yes, you would want to go, learn more about it. I think right now for me, I'm personally really interested in the data side of things. So I'm thinking about like a master's in data science. I've been chatting with my manager about this. And yeah, I think as you go along in your career, you start realizing, okay, what's more valuable? Getting deeper into a specific topic that can ultimately help me in my job, or should I go broader and think about an MBA maybe? And maybe the MBA can help me figure out what type of specialization I want to do eventually. Because there's so many types of things you can do with the MBA. You can dive deeper into marketing, maybe data science, again, go back to product management as well. But that's something I think a lot of folks do for a career change. I'm personally thinking about a master's and diving deeper into data science and getting more dirty with data out there that we know, and like understanding how to play around with this data and manipulate it and maybe help our product in the end. That's the goal, right? So yeah.
So for those who are interested to start a career in product management, like other than the degrees that they can get, what kind of other things they can do right now to like prep themselves for a career in product management?
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of things in the beginning, like can you talk a little bit more about like what you did specifically, like the projects you did, maybe like hackathons if you attended them?
Yeah.
Like any experience that contributed to your success right now?
That's a good question. So personally for me, I think two big things that I would say played a big role in getting these internships and securing these big company names is one, my network. So having a great network and talking to folks, reaching out on LinkedIn, not giving up if like those 100 folks don't respond, because there's this one person that ultimately can change your life, right?
For sure, yeah.
So I remember getting a lot of rejections back in the day, but there was this one person, and that's just your glimmer of hope, right? So don't give up in that aspect. So yeah, leveraging my network, and I think side projects, and I think Lydia just mentioned this, like hackathons is a great way to flex that and get side projects on your resume.
Yeah.
But for me, like I started working on my own, profile, my personal site, and then seeing, okay, what engineering projects that I'm working on, and this is like, it goes back to our engineering, I think, fourth year design project that I used and put in my profile, right? And I worked so hard on that with my team that I saw value in it, and I made this mobile app with my team. And this was more like specific to biomedical engineering, but that app ultimately fed into my profile, and then that was also handed off in my resume. So recruiters can see this is a side project that I worked on and I invested 8 months of my time in. Again, you can find, there's cryptocurrency projects, there's so many projects out there. You can like pick up and you can start building an app, you can start building a website. There's so much tools and technology documentation out there that you can literally pick up anything and flex that muscle and show to an HR, hey, I was independently able to do this myself. So what can I do at the workplace? Just imagine that, right? So I think, it gets back to leveraging your network, building those side projects, and then making sure that those side projects are presented well. So recruiters have a quick look and they're like, yes, this person should go into their interview loop, essentially.
So you mentioned your fourth year design project was just build visiting a team, and your specific aspect was a mobile component that you built on your own, right? So you're really familiar with the coding aspect of things. But for those who are like maybe new to coding, like what would you recommend like then getting their hands dirty on? Yeah,
so I would like, there's some Udemy great courses out there. I know they cost like $10-20, and there's coupons available for that. But try looking at these courses and building a foundation in HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That could be a great start.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I did that way earlier in my
first
life.
year. I caught you building your own website.
Yeah, so I was doing that like way before, right? But I think I got more excited about like, okay, I'm in this team now. I'm working on this mobile product. Why don't I dive deeper using documentation that's available for Android or React, right? You just have to look at the documentation. There's so much supporting documentation out there. They're literally guiding and there's tutorials. That's one way. Following along with YouTubers is another way. Like YouTubers have these dedicated websites that they're making, and they're using their YouTube platform to teach you how to build these websites. And just starting from the basics and then building yourself up to eventually something that you want to build. Because I think when there is passion, then there's that drive to learn all this stuff too. I was really passionate about getting a profile out there and like a project that represents all the work I'm doing and documenting the work I'm doing. So I just, that naturally led me to looking at all these different YouTube videos, documentation that could help me build that website. But if you're interested in making a dance app or something with like, basketball scores and an app that's tracking all that, something that drives you to ultimately learn all these things, I think that's exactly what you need. Because when you're presenting this work to HR or the company, you want that passion to speak for itself, that I was building this app, but the foundation came because I was so passionate about this project or idea, and that's what ultimately led me to learning how to code, right? So I think find that thing you want to build. It could be a simple app, it could be a typing thing, a search, but a search bar or something. But anything you want to build, think about that, and then think about what tools and technologies can help build that experience, right? Ultimately.
So your undergraduate studies was in biomedical engineering.
Yeah.
And do you recommend that as like starting degree to get into product management? Or would you rather have chosen another career path like software engineering or like CS?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was always thinking about that and reflecting, and right now we're in the University of Waterloo, and I'm just like thinking about all the memories I've had here with Lydia as well. But yes, looking back, I think for me, just seeing where I am right now in my career, I think a computer science degree would have been ideal, because one, they don't have that engineering project at the end of your 4 years.
You literally said the first year project like fed into your final.
But that's the thing with computer science kids that I've met throughout my internships. It's a great point, but I think the folks that I met in computer science in the internships that were from the computer science program, they have so much time to do these side projects. And I was always just like envying, like, why don't I have that time to invest in these side projects? Whereas I'm doing all these engineering requirements and fulfilling those, right?
That's true.
So I personally would have used my time to build so many more side projects if I had that time. So if I go back in time, I think computer science degree would have been ideal. But I'm saying that because that's what I just reflected on, but I also think any degree can lead you to this journey. Even I think a software engineering path, like any degree you take ultimately doesn't have effect. I've seen so many folks change their careers in the last minute. It all depends on like the passion, the motivation you have around you. Like I've seen management engineering folks doing software engineering, but they're also doing product management, right? So they don't ultimately all go into product management, right? But a great engineering program that we have at Waterloo is management engineering that ultimately leads you into product management. And I think I have a unique journey in biomedical engineering that took me to product management. But I think if it wasn't for these co-ops and kind of like, steering the wheel myself and figuring out the careers that I wanted to take part in, or just having luck on my side as well, I don't think I would be here today, right? But a lot of it has to do with me pushing and motivating myself and building these sites and, building my network, talking to folks, making sure that there's visibility to my work, but also getting me into the interview loop, right? So a lot of it comes down to not the program you're in, but the amount of work you're willing to put to figure out, okay, can I get to this career path? And can I keep pushing myself and eventually get to there and see if I like it or not, right? And then you can pivot again. But a lot of pivoting, a lot of hard work has to go into this.
Having a plan is very important. Like you might be aiming for like 100%, and like once you're at the 50% mark, you will see that you are able to aim for 200%.
Yeah, exactly.
So like always changing your plans and having a plan is super important. And we see that from Kritika because she's been at like multiple different companies for product management, like internships. And through those, like I think she only stayed at each of her position for like a year. And she really learned a lot from like pivoting and like making decisions and like trying different things. And finally, she is at a position that she is happy with.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with like you're early on in your career, so you can be fluid, right? This is the time to be fluid. Be flexible with yourself. If you're not happy somewhere, you still have time to pivot and change. If you don't have a lot of dependencies, that is like a family or a house or a mortgage on your head. But I do think it's really important to like figure your career out, and then everything else I think can just figure itself out. But really put your best foot in for your career. And push yourself. Don't just look at rejections at the end of the day, but look at, this is a goal I'm chasing, and what are the baby steps I'm taking to get there? And eventually, your life will figure itself out if you do put the work in. I've personally seen that. I think I've seen it in Lydia's journey, and there's a lot of friends I've had who I've seen figure themselves out, but the hard work it's the initial investment that you have to put in.
Yeah. Wow, that's really deep.
Yeah.
So any advice for high schoolers that are trying to get into university?
Yes, that's
words.
Yeah. So I think we all struggle with that because we don't know what these universities are looking at. I just think the biggest thing that's worked for me is don't be robotic. One thing I really like about my journey so far is that I focused on my career, I focused on school, but I always had these hobbies on the side, such as dance. And I always try to keep a balance between everything, right? You don't want to just be robotic and just always coding, or you don't want to just be working on your website or schoolwork. You want to have a life, and you want to be everywhere and anywhere, right? Not to say like school is not important, but I think it's so important to show that you're managing your time in other places other than school, right? And that's my biggest piece of advice. I bet you these universities are not looking for robotic folks anymore. Everyone can learn how to code, but I think having that personality, having that ability to talk to people, communicate, and just having a fun laugh sometimes, it's important. Everything is not about your, like, hey, I need to be serious and get, work done, but it's more about like, how can I work as a team player, how can I, get this project done? How can I set the expectations? How can I, balance my time and go, maybe play a guitar song and come back to my work? So don't be robotic. That's the biggest piece of advice. And I think be yourself again, like make yourself exciting for sure, but like be yourself, be that authentic person on these applications. Show like, this is what I'm made of. I come from this background. I have this experience. I've been volunteering. I've been doing this, but don't do it for the sake of the application. Do it because there's passion and you're driven to do this stuff, right? Personally, like I really enjoyed being part of religious activities in high school, but that's something that I eventually started like, losing interest in. And I didn't put that in my application because I truly, after grade 9, collecting my 40 hours, I wasn't that interested in, being part of these religious activities anymore. So I started spending more time teaching and learning dance. And that became a really important part of me, right? So I think be passionate, be driven, and try to explore new things because that is the time, high school, university, this is the time to be fluid and flexible.
And also like finding your own self would also help you during interviews as well, because interviewers are like scanning through like thousands of resumes and they're interviewing hundreds of applicants. And what makes you stand out is essentially your hobbies. And I've heard so many success stories of people who are pursuing their passions, which are like hockey, basketball, dance, who actually stood out to the interviewers and like they were welcomed onto the team just because they have the extra like spice to their resume or extra spice to their personality.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like my manager in New York, we bonded because his wife and I had the similar hobby, which is dance.
Wow.
And like that's things like he didn't look at during the interview process, but that's something that we started relating on in the internship, and that just connects you to your employees at a different level. So it's a work relationship, but then you can also talk about other things other than just the technical implementations of the app, right? There's just so much more to you, and bring that out there.
That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kritika, for the amazing talk today, and thank you for your time here. I think the viewers will really enjoy the talk, and they might have questions later on. And I'll put your LinkedIn in the description down below so they can reach out to you personally and get some help.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.